This is my persuasive speech about human trafficking. Here are two people. Where's my second person? Okay, he's listening to my speech, I promise. He's sick. And here's my third person. Here we go. Make sure they're in the right order. Okay. Right now, as we sit in our rooms writing this speech, sleeping, eating, or doing any of our daily activities, millions of people around the world are trapped in what we call modern slavery. Many victims of this entrapment are children, and many are hidden in plain sight. Imagine waking up one day, leaving your home for school or work, and never being free to make your own choices again. Sadly, this is the reality for many people around the world. Human trafficking is often thought as something that only happens in other countries or movies, but the truth is that it happens every day in communities across the US. Victims can be children, teenagers, or adults from any cultural background. They're often manipulated, threatened, or forced into labor or commercial sex for someone else's profit. The International Labor Organization states that in 2022, nearly 50 million people were living in situations of modern slavery, including and not limited to forced labor and forced marriage. This insane number reminds us that human trafficking is unfortunately not a rare crime. It's simply too taboo of a topic for most conversations. That being said, it is so under wraps that people don't realize how common it can be. It is a worldwide crisis that continues to grow. Human trafficking is a serious crime that destroys lives through physical, emotional, and financial harm. I will explain the devastating effects that human trafficking has on victims, discuss why this crime continues to happen, and present solutions that can help reduce potential trafficking and support survivors. First of all, to get unfortunately blatant, victims are often known to suffer extreme physical abuse and violence. Many victims are beaten, threatened, and deprived of food and sleep, or first forced to work long hours in dangerous conditions. Some are denied medical treatment, even when they are becoming seriously ill or injured. The U.S. Department of Justice in 2025 shared that human trafficking is the exploitation of people through force, fraud, or coercion for labor or commercial sex. Victims may suffer broken bones, untreated illnesses, malnutrition, and permanent injuries because of the abuse they experience. Some survivors continue to deal with chronic pain and health problems for years after escaping. No person should ever have to live through this kind of physical suffering, simply so someone else can profit from their pain. Trafficking can leave some seriously devastating emotional and psychological scars in victims that can last a lifetime. While physical injuries may heal, emotional trauma often stays with survivors for years. Many victims develop anxiety, depression, PTSD, panic attacks, and feelings of shame or hopelessness. Traffickers often isolate victims from their families and convince them that no one will believe them if they ask for help. According to the Federal Bureau of Investigation in 2024, traffickers commonly rely on narcissistic manipulation, intimidation, and fear just as much as physical violence to control victims. This emotional control can make it incredibly difficult for victims to escape or even leave if an opportunity arises. After escaping, many survivors require years of counseling and mental health treatment before they can begin rebuilding their lives. Finally, human trafficking can also create devastating financial consequences for victims. Traffickers frequently force victims to work while keeping every dollar they earn. Many victims, especially the youngest, lose years of schooling, job experience, and opportunities to build stable careers. Adults often struggle to find employment because they have gaps in their education or work history. The Congressional Research Service in 2025 states that thousands of suspected human trafficking cases are identified in the United States each year. The financial damage often continues long after survivors escape because many with little to no money, no savings, damaged credit, or limited resources. Recovering from trafficking is not just about escaping the trafficker. It's also about rebuilding an entire life from the beginning. When we look at the physical injuries, emotional trauma, and financial devastation caused by human trafficking, it becomes clear that this is a crime that affects every part of a victim's life. However, understanding the harm is only part of the issue. The next question is, why does human trafficking continue to happen despite the numerous efforts to stop it? Now that we understand how tragic human trafficking is, let's look at why this crime continues to happen. The first reason is that many people simply do not recognize the warning signs. When people think of human trafficking, they picture someone being kidnapped by a stranger, While that can happen, many victims are manipulated through false promises of love, jobs, housing, or financial security. Victims may appear to be living normal lives while secretly being controlled by someone else, potentially not even realizing it yet. According to the Department of Homeland Security's Blue Campaign in 2025, learning the warning signs is one of the most effective ways to identify victims before the abuse continues. Signs may include someone appearing fearful, avoiding eye contact, being unable to speak for themselves, or being closely monitored by another person. Because so many people are unaware of these warning signs, countless victims go unnoticed every day. The second reason human trafficking continues is that traffickers intentionally target vulnerable people. Individuals experiencing poverty, homelessness, family conflict, abuse, addiction, or unstable housing are often at much greater risks. Children in foster care, runaway teens, and people who are desperate for employment are especially vulnerable because traffickers know that they're searching for safety, acceptance, or financial stability. The United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime in 2024 states that traffickers specifically prey on people facing difficult life circumstances because they are easier to manipulate and exploit. Rather than using force immediately, traffickers often build trust before taking control, making it much harder for victims to recognize where they're being exploited until they feel trapped. The third reason is that trafficking organizations are difficult to investigate and stop. Victims are often threatened with violence against them or their families if they try to escape or even give the opportunity to leave. Some are moved frequently from city to city, making it difficult for law enforcement to locate them. Others are afraid to report their traffickers because they fear arrest, deportation, or retaliation. According to the U.S. Department of State's 2024 Trafficking in the Persons Report, trafficking continues to adapt their methods by using social media, online messaging apps, and even shopping apps, along with other technology, to recruit and control victims. These constantly changing methods make it even more challenging for law enforcement to identify trafficking operations before people become victims. Although these causes are serious, they are not impossible to overcome. There are several solutions that can significantly reduce human trafficking. The first solution is increasing education and public awareness. We need to talk about it. When more people understand what human trafficking looks like, they are more likely to recognize the warning signs and report suspicious situations. Schools can educate students about online safety, healthy relationships, and manipulation tactics used by traffickers. Businesses such as hotels, airports, hospitals, and transportation companies can train employees to recognize possible victims. The National Human Trafficking Training and Technical Assistance Center in 2024 explains that educating professionals who regularly interact with the public greatly improves the chances of identifying victims and connecting them with help. Awareness truly has the power to save lives. The second solution is strengthening law enforcement efforts and increasing resources for anti-trafficking organizations. Human trafficking investigations are complex and often involve multiple cities, states, or even countries. Police officers, investigators, prosecutors, and victim advocates must work together to dismantle trafficking networks. According to the Bureau of Investigation and Justice Statistics in 2023, specialized anti-trafficking task forces have helped identify more victims and improve investigations across the United States. Continued funding for these programs allows law enforcement to rescue victims more quickly while holding traffickers accountable for their crimes. Finally, survivors need long-term support after they escape. Escaping trafficking is only the first step towards recovery. Many survivors need safe housing, medical care, counseling, legal assistance, education, and job training before they can successfully rebuild their lives. Without these resources, survivors will remain vulnerable to being exploited again. According to Polaris in 2025, the National Human Trafficking Hotline connects survivors with shelters, counseling services, transportation, and other essential resources that can help them regain their independence. In addition, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children in 2024 emphasizes that many young victims require long-term emotional support and stable environments to fully recover from their experiences. By investing in survivors, instead of forgetting about them after they're rescued, communities can help break the cycle of exploitation and allow victims to build successful futures. Human trafficking is a strangely complicated problem, but it is not one without a solution. Through the greater awareness, stronger law enforcement, and continued support for survivors, we can significantly help solve this epidemic and bring a halt to this hate crime. In conclusion, human trafficking is one of the most devastating crimes affecting our world today. Every year, millions of people lose their freedom because they are exploited for someone else's profit. Throughout this speech, we learned that human trafficking causes serious physical injuries, emotional trauma, and financial hardship for victims. We also discussed that this crime continues because many people do not recognize the warning signs. Traffickers target vulnerable individuals, and trafficking organizations are difficult to stop. Fortunately, there are solutions. By educating our communities, strengthening law enforcement efforts, and providing survivors with the resources they need to rebuild their lives, we can help reduce human trafficking and protect those who are most vulnerable. Every person can make a difference, whether that means learning the warning signs, reporting suspicious activity, or supporting organizations that work to fight against human trafficking and assist survivors. Human trafficking does not only happen in the movies or in faraway countries. It can happen in neighborhoods just like ours. The more we educate ourselves and refuse to ignore the warning signs, the more difficult it becomes for traffickers to continue to exploit innocent people. Together, we can protect victims, support survivors, and move towards a future where every person has the freedom, safety, and dignity they deserve. Thank you. Here's my first person and my second person who is ill, and my third person. And that is it. Thank you.